Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, we'll make a start, inshallah. Brothers, if you do me a favour, if you can just start moving forward, please, because what happens is we do get a few latecomers coming and then it does fill up and then it's just a bit awkward. It's not going to help for that. Okay, we're back now again for the monthly one. There was a bit of a break. Actually, we did have a conference last month, so it's going to be back now. I think after Ramadan, there will be the next one as well. So we're going to start with today's talk is going to be receiving the Ramadan. So I'm looking forward to this, inshallah. So Shaykh Dr. Asim Yusuf, also known as Talibul Habib, I'm sure a lot of you know about him, is a consultant psychiatrist with a special interest in Islamic spirituality and mental health. He's acknowledged as an authority on Islamic psychology and he regularly works in that field as well. So he serves on an advisory panel on the Centre for Islam and Medicine, as well as an advisory capacity to a number of community initiatives and charities. So I'm hoping he'll do a sheet for us as well later as well, but it depends on the voice he was saying. So welcome, Asim.
Get the big chair. Assalamu alaikum. You set it on night mode. You set it on night mode.
Yes.
All the reverb kicking in, yeah?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for the welcome, the introduction. Thank you for keeping it short and brief. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا تأويل وجعلنا من خيرة أمة سيدنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا علما يقربنا منك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. So let me ask a question first. Can you all hear me perfectly well? Do we need this then? That'll pick up, that'll record anyway.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah. It's up to you. If you want to leave it up, leave it up.
Yeah.
It's not brilliant at the back.
Pardon?
It's not brilliant at the back.
It's not brilliant at the back. Okay. Is it brilliant now? Okay, fine, I'll keep it on. I'd like to thank the Abrahamic Foundation for inviting me to come and talk to you and to give myself an opportunity to remind myself and reflect about the month that is to come. It's interesting that sometimes, and I don't know whether Shaykh has had this experience as well, but our preparations for the month of Ramadan tend to be gearing up for the annual fight about which day the month is going to start on and which calendar to use and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes we can get distracted as to the real purpose of the month. And the purpose of this month is to draw near to God. Alright, this is the purpose of the month of Ramadan. So I hope, inshallah, to be able to give you a few words and a bit of encouragement and some practical advice on how to proceed. I've been told to talk for 45 minutes, which is a rather long time to talk. But I'm sure I'll be able to fill it up. And I was told to leave about 10 minutes for questions, which sounds like a rather short time for questions, unless you guys don't ask many. I'm more than happy if people have questions to shorten the talk and increase the length of time for questions. Yeah? Now I'll leave that up to you guys, inshallah. Khair. Let's start with some words, shall we? So let's look first at two words. If you want to understand the purpose of the fasting month, before we go to the Quranic verses in their entirety, let's take a look at some words. Alright? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Shahru Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. So, what is Ramadan? Now, for those of you who don't know, a little bit of history. The Arab months before Islam, there were 12 months. But what they would do is occasionally they would add in extra days or they would add in an extra month now and then. This is called intercalation. And they would do that so that the lunar months kept roughly in sequence with the seasons. Alright? So if you look at our calendar, for example, June is always in summer, December is always in winter. Okay? But if you look at Ramadan varies through the year. Alright, so 10 years ago it was in kind of October, now it's in June, in 10 years' time it'll be in February. Alright, so the month moves through the year. And that's a great blessing for us, of course, because at the moment we have to gear up and steel ourselves for a 19-20 hour fast. But don't worry, because in 10 years' time you'll fast, you'll blink and you'll miss the fast, because that's how short it'll be. Alright? But the way that the Arab months worked prior to the revelation, Allah's revelation of the verse that there are 12 months in the sight of God, 4 of which are sacred, and that these are fixed time periods, was that Ramadan would always be in summer. The month of Ramadan would be in summer. The reason it's called Ramadan is because that month had the quality of Ramd. And Ramd means when you purify iron by heating it in a very hot fire. So those of you who know the process of removing carbon from iron, you basically have to heat it in a very, very hot furnace. And that purifies the iron and it strengthens it. Alright? And this is important. Why? 2 reasons. The Arabic language, one thing you need to understand is the Arabic language is something that has a certain divine secret in it. Alright? This is why I'm putting an emphasis on words to begin with. The Arabic language has certain divine secrets in it. The names used for acts of worship and for other things like this relate very closely to their spiritual purpose or to their spiritual reality. So let me give you an example. What's the word for this life, this world? So there are 2 words used, right? For this physical earth that we inhabit. There are 2 words used. What are those 2 words? I like it to be interactive, guys. What are the 2 words? Dunya and Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alam. Dunya and Alam. If you look in the Quran, you will find, and I feel like Ustaz Muhammad Ali Khan at the moment, but if you look at the Quran, what you will find, promises, and I haven't stolen this from him, by the way, just to be clear, he has said exactly the same thing as me. I promise I didn't steal it from him. If you look at the word dunya, it is almost always used in negative context. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ad-dunya mal'oon, wa ma fiha mal'oon illa dhikr Allah." وَمَا حَضَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Or كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, the dunya is mal'oon. Mal'oon means cursed. It's sometimes translated as cursed. But the word mal'oon means to be far from something. So the dunya is far from God's mercy. And everything in it is far from God's mercy or God's presence, except for the remembrance of God and that which accompanies the remembrance of God. But if you look at the other word that's used for this world, it's alam. And the meaning of alam is that by which you acquire knowledge. Right? Alam has the same root, I'm sure there's some Arabic students here, the same pattern as khatam. And a khatam is a seal. A ring is a khatam, right? It's that, in the old days, you take a letter, you roll it up, right? Then you put some wax on it, and then you take your ring and you press your ring into it like that, right? And that's called sealing the letter. Why do you do that? Because now you know that it's closed and no one can add anything to it. Right? So now I give Dr. Hisham this letter and I say take it to so and so, right? And give it to them. Now that person will know if Dr. Hisham has broken open that letter to see what's inside it, because the seal will be broken, right? This is a khatam. Now what's the word khatam mean? It means a thing used to seal something. A thing used to seal something. The word alam has the same pattern. What it means is a thing used to know something. A tool by which knowledge is acquired. This is the meaning of alam. What do you acquire? Through what knowledge do you acquire? Through the world? You acquire knowledge of the creator of the world. Sani'ul alam, the creator of the world. So the alam is a tool by which you acquire knowledge of God. That's the meaning of the word alam. The word dunya comes from the Arabic dana yadun, which means something that is low and something that pulls you down. Something that pulls you down. Right? So this is a little indication as to how the word, simply the words used, indicate something about the reality of what we interact with. Because the fact of the matter is, everything out there, the trees, the road, the signs you see on the street, the people that you encounter, for you, it's either dunya or it is alam. It's you that makes it one of the two. If everything you encounter out there is a means to distract you from God, it's dunya. But if everything out there is a means by which you come to know God, you come to realize things about God, then it is an alam. And Allah is the Lord of the alameen. He is the Lord of everything that possibly exists out there. Right? And Rabb means creator, sustainer, nurturer. So Allah creates, sustains, nurtures, brings to fulfillment, and is the master of every single thing out there by which you acquire knowledge of Him. Every single thing out there that is a window that you can look through. If you remove the curtain, you can look through to learn something about your Lord. The Arabic language is pregnant with these types of spiritual meanings, these subtle meanings. As one of my teachers said to me once, what's the word for a gold coin in Arabic? It's dinar. And he says it contains the word nar, fire. Right? What's the word for a silver coin in Arabic? It's dirham. It contains the word hum. And hum means anxiety, sorrow, grief. So dinars will lead you to the fire. Dirhams will only give you sorrow and grief. Alright? The word for gold in Arabic is fantastic. It's dhahab. The word dhahaba in Arabic means to go. It means to go. And the word for silver in Arabic is fidda. And the word fada in Arabic means to flee. So gold goes, dhahaba dhahab, wa fada fidda. Gold goes, silver flees. This is the nature of money. This is the nature of money. Alright? The word salah. Now the word salah, before the Prophet ﷺ, the word salah meant to make a dua. It meant to ask somebody for something. This is called salah. Alright? Now what's the meanings of the word salah? And how does it link to the prayer? So salah has 3 basic meanings. Meaning number 1 is when you bend your hip, when you bend your joints of now you'll understand when I say your axial skeleton, right? Which means your spine, your pelvis, your spine, your neck, all of this here. Not your arms and legs. It's not movement of arms and legs. It's movement of neck, shoulders, back, pelvis. That's salah. Alright? The word salah also means to supplicate, to ask for something. And the word salah is linked to the word sila, and sila means to connect. To connect. So what is the prayer? The prayer is a series of movements that involve bending, a series of movements that involve bending, a set of supplications or du'as by which you connect to God. And that's why the word salah is used for the ritual prayer. So this is the way the Arabic language works. That's a little introduction. Now, we're coming back to fasting. I said the month is called Ramadan, and it comes from the Arabic word ramd. And I said ramd means, it was the name of the month, Ramadan. Why? Because it was so hot. You can imagine, right? Anyone been to Mecca or Medina in summer? I mean, seriously, it's not even funny. It's not even funny. It's like, it's like 50 degrees. Yeah? It's really, really hot. And it was so hot that it's almost like you could purify iron. That's how hot it was. You know how we say sometimes, it was so hot you can fry an egg? Right? You just open an egg and it'll fry. It's like that. Okay? But look at this word. that the ancient Arabs put in place for the hottest month of the year. The month that would become 1,000 years later, the month that Allah chose or revealed the fast to occur in. The name they gave it was Ramd. What is Ramd? It is the process by which iron is purified by removal of carbon through heat. That's what Ramd is. Alright? Now, how does that relate to the fast? Iron comes from the heavens. Allah says we sent down iron. We sent down iron from the heavens. Iron comes from the heavens, like your soul comes from the heavens. But when it comes into the earth, it's mixed with stuff. It becomes iron ore. Sorry, my daughters have just written. My daughters have just written their GCSEs in science, so I know this really well. But it's mixed with the earth. And what does it mix with? It mixes with carbon, specifically. It mixes with oxygen and carbon. So you need to remove the oxygen and the carbon from the iron to make it strong. Like we are composed of what? Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen and nitrogen. That's what we're made of. So what's the purpose of the fast? The purpose of the fast is to purify that part of us that comes from the heavens, from that part of us which comes from the earth, in order that we can become not just strong, but flexible. Because the thing about iron is that it's not just strong, it's flexible, you can bend it into different shapes. And this is why the month of Ramadan, it is worthwhile reflecting on the name Ramadan. Because the name, if you understand the name, it will tell you something about what the purpose of fasting in it is. Allah then started off this cycle where the month started to move through the year. Otherwise, living in this country, we would have 20-hour fasts every single year. Right? So you no longer get the physical heat necessarily. So where does the heat come from? Where does the heat come from now? Now the heat that is needed to purify the human being comes from the fast. It comes from the fasting. So the purpose of the fast is to purify you of those elements of your nature that drag you down, so that you can become strong and you can become flexible. That your soul, that which comes from the heavens, can be strong and it can be flexible. Alright? So this is why Ramadan. And what do we do in the month of Ramadan? Sawm. Sawm. And Sawm, which you all know, means fasting. Right? What does it literally mean? Again, I'm going to go by, I like words, I'm a bit of a language nerd. Alright? But why? Because if you understand the words, you don't need all the fiqh. If you understand the words, you don't need the fiqh. You know what it means. Okay? So what is Sawm? The ancient Arabs used the word Sawm to mean the bridle that you put on a horse, the reins on a horse. Okay? That's the meaning of the word Sawm. Anyone done any horse riding here? Right. I'll ask this again. Any ladies? No? Oh, you're missing out. Oh, you've done it? Of course you have. Anyone done any proper horse riding? As in above a trot? Above a... Yes? Good stuff. How's it? Awesome, isn't it? Awesome, right? Right, I remember the first time I went horse riding, and we didn't do it like in the UK. In the UK, what they do is for like 3 years, you never go above a trot. You just kind of sit there and you... Right? I first learned to ride a horse in South Africa. And what they basically did was put on the back of a horse and went bang like that. And it just ching, and you've just got to hold on for dear life. Literally, I was literally holding on for dear life. I never prayed so sincerely as I prayed on that day that I was on the back of the horse. Right? Because it was... Now why? Because I could not control the horse. I could not, no matter how much I tugged on the reins, I couldn't control it. I couldn't make it stop, I couldn't make it start, I couldn't make it turn. Yeah, I'm like, come on, giddy up, you know, jerking on the reins a little bit. Yeah, and I remember one of the guys said to me, no, you've got to be stricter than that. I said, what do you mean? He took the rein and he yanked it like that. Oh my God, I felt so sorry for the horse, but the horse turned. But it turned. And I'm like kicking its flanks, like they're trying to make it go, you know, don't want to hurt the poor thing. He's probably not even noticing a fly was making more an impact than I was. Alright? He took that thing and he whacked its flank and it started to go. Right? What's the lesson here? Who was riding who? Who was riding who? I wasn't riding that horse. I just happened to be sitting on its back. The horse did exactly what it wanted to do. Do you know why? Because I did not know how to use the reins to master the horse. Now your nafs, your lower self, is a horse. It's a vehicle. It's stronger than you are by yourself. It's got more stamina than you've got by yourself. It can carry heavier burdens than you can by yourself, and it can carry them for longer than you can by yourself. The reason you ride a horse, the reason you get in a car, is because it's a lot quicker than walking. It's a lot more convenient than walking, and you can take much more stuff with you. We're on a journey. We're on a sirat. We're trying to get home. Rabbana wa ilayka al-masir. Oh Allah, to you is the journey's end. The journey ends in your presence. That's where we're trying to get to. And we're trying to get to there before nightfall. Before our eyes close for the last time. So we need help. And Allah has given it to us. He's given us a nafs. He's given us a steed to ride. Problem? We can't control it. We can't control it. So what happens? If it wants to stop, it stops. We can't do anything. If it wants to go, it goes. We can't do anything. If it sees a nice tree over there with some fruit on it, it's going, you want to go that way, it's going that way. Who's going to win? It's going to win. You know why? You don't know how to use the reins. You don't know how to master the horse. You have to be the master of your horse. You have to be the captain of your ship. If you are, you will get where you need to go. If not, you're going to end up somewhere you don't want to be. You're going to end up somewhere you don't want to be. Alright? What is Sawm? Sawm is learning how to use the reins. It's learning how to use the reins. And this is not just about not sticking food down your gob. It's not about that. It's about controlling this, and controlling this, and controlling your tongue, and controlling your hands and your feet and your private parts. That's what it's really about. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that you may learn to become conscious of God. You may be aware that God is with you. That's the purpose of the fast. That's the purpose of the sawm. That's the purpose of the bridle on your nafs. It puts a bridle on your nafs. It says, there's the reins, here's how you use it. Now practice for 30 days. You practice for 30 days, you'll be very good by the end of it. But of course, what most of us do, unfortunately, at the end of the 30 days, is we say, that was very interesting, it was very nice, and we leave the reins. And what happens over the next 330 days? Well, our horses learn that, if I want to go that way, he's not going to tell me anything. If I want to stop, he's not going to say anything. If I don't want to wake up for fajr, she's not going to say anything. That's what the horse says. That's what the nafs says. This 30 days is practice. It's, can I use the phrase? A deen intensive. That's what this 30 days is. It's 30 days of practice to learn how to master yourself. So that when you get out there into the big bad world, once the shayateen are unchained again, alright, you've got enough mastery over yourself to be able to stay the course, to be able to do what you need to do. So yes, there's a lot of rewards to fasting. Yes, Allah is the one, the Prophet ﷺ said that, or Allah rather says that everything has a reward except for fasting. The fast is for me and I am its reward. Or in another narration, the fast is for me and I am the one who rewards it. I.e., I have a special reward kept aside for those who fast. Yes, No question. Your good deeds are multiplied 70 times. No question. But the real purpose of the month is in the Quran. It's right there staring at us. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. You fast in order that you learn to pick up your shield and protect yourself. To take those reins and learn how to master that horse. That's the purpose of the fasting. If you can keep that in mind for 30 days. Right? Some of our mashayikh say, if you can do something for 40 days, it becomes a habit. If you can do it for 40 days, it becomes a habit. And Allah has mandated it for 30 days. He's recommended it for 6 days after. Alright? Then there's another day. So basically 30 days of Ramadan, 6 fasts of Shawwal, 3 fasts are the fasts of the white nights, or the bright nights, the nights of the full moon. That's 39. You only need to do 1 more. And there's your 40. There's your 40. So this is the purpose of the fast. This is why we fast. This is why Allah has mandated it. So that we learn how to control our steeds so that they can take us to God. The Prophet ﷺ taught this to the Sahaba. The Sahaba also had nafs. They also had nafs. They were human beings. I'm teaching the seerah at the moment. And one of the things I tell the students who come, some of them are here, they'll know I repeat it virtually every week. I want you to listen to the seerah. And I want you to think about all the people around the Prophet ﷺ, the believers, the disbelievers, the munafiqs, the muhajirun, the ansar, as human beings. As human beings. Because they were human beings. They weren't made of different DNA to the DNA that we were made of. They had hopes and fears and dreams. They had strengths, they had weaknesses. They took decisions like we take decisions. And I said, I want you to think about the Sahaba and why. What was it that made them to just decide to follow the Prophet ﷺ, despite all the difficulties that entailed, especially in Mecca. But I also want you to think about the disbelievers and why they chose not to follow the Prophet ﷺ. What were the reasons they didn't follow the Prophet ﷺ? Sometimes it was pride. Oh, he's from a different tribe. How come the Prophet wasn't sent to our tribe? Our tribe's better than his tribe. Sometimes it was jealousy. Walid ibn Mughira, what did he say? He said, if Allah wanted to send a prophet, why did He make it you? Why did He make it me? I am the great man of Mecca. Why did He send me as a prophet? Yeah? Sometimes it was lots of other reasons. But those reasons are as true 1400 years ago as they are today. It's the same types of reasons. And we need to think about them and make sure we avoid the reasons that some people became disbelievers. And we try to strengthen the reasons that made others believers. Alright? So this is what we want to try to acquire. This is what we want to try to achieve. So this is the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, very important thing. So let's get back to the fasting, inshallah. What's the purpose? To acquire consciousness of God. To learn to master ourselves, and by doing so, to purify ourselves of our base elements, and to elevate ourselves, to strengthen ourselves so that we're not brittle anymore. Okay? They're not brittle anymore. We don't snap under pressure. But we rather are flexible. That is to say, taqwa, the meaning of the word taqwa, the meaning of the word Psalm, and the meaning of the word Ramadan. Alright? Khair. Now, Psalm, if you look in the fiqh books and stuff, it will tell you the meaning of Psalm is imsak. Imsak means to restrain yourself from doing something. Same, it's like with song, right? You restrain a horse by means of the bridle, by means of the reins. Yeah? So it's to restrain yourself from things. The great scholars of Islam talk about 2 levels of fasting. They actually talk about 3, but we'll leave the 3rd one out, alright? Because if you reach the stage where you're at the 3rd level, then you really don't need to be sitting in this talk, you need to be giving it. Okay? So, level 1 is to abstain from food and drink, from things that break the fast, from sunrise to sunset, for 30 days, from the sighting of one crescent moon to the sighting of the next crescent moon. Right? So to abstain from the breakers of the fast for that period of time. Okay. The second level of imsak, of restraint, right, of restraining yourself, is to restrain yourself from all the things that are disliked by God. Alright, so to restrain yourself from all that which displeases God. And I want to make a point here. Why do certain things displease God? Now, let's take another step back. All human actions can be understood in a very simple way. The whole of fiqh, I'm going to explain the whole of fiqh to you now, right? After this you'll be a mufti. Right? The whole of fiqh is this. Alright? Anything that you do, every breath you take, every step you make, yeah? All the things that you do are only in 3 categories. It's either a step forward, or a step back, or a step sideways. That's it. That's all. Every single thing that you do either takes you near to God, or takes you further away from God, or keeps you in basically the same place. Alright? And this is the basis of the legal categories. Everything after that is detail. Everything after that is detail. All actions in their reality is either a step forward or a step back, or you stay in the same place. The mahmud, the madhmoom, and the mubah in Arabic. Okay? Don't worry about them. Allah speaks English too, so don't worry about those languages. Don't worry about languages. Step forward, step back, stay in the same place. But that's all. There are certain things that if you do them, you take a step forward. If you don't do them, you take a step back. Those things are obligatory. That's what we mean by obligatory. So if you pray, take a step forward. If you don't pray that prayer, you take a step back. Right? So if you pray that, if you Fajr for example, you pray, you draw near to God. If you don't pray, you distance yourself from God. There are some actions that if you do them, you take a step forward. If you don't do them, you stay in the same place. It's like nafil prayer. You do it, you draw near to God. You don't do it, you missed an opportunity to take a step forward. But you don't go any further back. There are some things that if you do them, you take a step back. And if you don't do them, when you have the opportunity to, you take a step forward. That's the haram. These are forbidden things. So someone puts a kind of beer in front of you, says, "Oh, have some of this, it's really nice." You'll feel really nice afterwards. Or more likely in our case, I'm looking at the guys here, someone gives you a spliff. Right? You know, cannabis is the alcohol of the Muslim community. Alright? Yeah, especially the guys. Not that ladies don't do don't do marijuana, they do, believe me. But many of the guys, yeah, some say, "Oh, have this, it'll make you feel nice, it'll be cool if you take this." Yeah? Only cool people do this. Alright? What happens? What happens? You've taken a step back. If you say, "You know what? Yeah, give it to me. Thank you. Put it down." Right? Or you just say, "No." Just by saying no, just by refusing, you're drawn near to God. Just by refusing. You don't have to, this is the thing, it's very easy to draw near to God. All you need to do is not sin. You don't actually need to do anything. You just need to not sin. And you draw near to God. Alright? This is how it works. It's very simple. Now, why has Allah chosen particular actions to be obligatory? Because He knows that the effect that that action has on the soul is that if you do it, you draw near to Him. And if you don't do it, you draw further away from Him. And Allah says, I love this action because of the effect that it has. I'm going to compel you to do it because I don't want you to draw further away from me. I want you to come close. I want you to come close. That's the meaning of fard. That's the meaning of wajib. That's what it means. It is stipulated like that as a mercy. It tells you something about the reality of the action. Allah has not made things obligatory on us because He sat there thinking at some point, what should I do? I know, I'll really make it difficult for them. I'm going to make them fast for 30 days. And I will make it obligatory. We think that sometimes, don't we? We think, God, Allah, why did you make this thing so hard? I mean, no. We're thinking about it in the wrong way. We're thinking about it in the wrong way. Allah didn't make something obligatory for the sake of making it obligatory. He has declared that this is obligatory because it is as obligatory as if you were drowning in a sea and someone throws you a rope. For you to grab onto it and someone says, you must take the rope, you must take the rope. Why are they saying it? Because they're trying to make your life difficult? No, because they realize that you are drowning and they are trying to save you. Right? How many of you got young nephews, nieces, children? Right? When you walk down this road here, you hold a hand, right? Why? Spoil your fun. That's why mom holds your hand, right? To spoil your fun. No, that's not the reason. Well, normally not the reason. Right? What's the reason? The reason is you recognize that there are dangers around that this child doesn't realize. This child doesn't realize that these things that are going past will hurt them if they get hit. And until they learn, they come to that realization, you have to hold their hand. Why? To prevent them hurting themselves. You know what that's called? It's called imsak. That's called imsak. It's called restraining. And the purpose of the fast is to restrain yourself from running into the road. Right? From running into the road. From jumping off a cliff. From drowning. All of the Sharia is pure mercy from God. If only we understood it correctly. And this is the meaning of the hadith, ad-din al-nasiha. Religion is the whole of the deen is God's, and this is how Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali explained it, God's wishing that good come to mankind. Right? God's wishing that good come to mankind. Alright, so, when my wife went to visit a family in South Africa, and I was at home by myself, it's very dangerous. Alright? And I got left a list of instructions. Do this, don't do that, do this, don't forget to lock the door. Because I'm a child, so don't forget to lock the door. Make sure when you go upstairs that the stove is turned off. These sorts of things. It's probably a good thing because I would forget my head if it wasn't attached. So, why has she said all those things? Because she just wants to be petty and difficult and officious? No. It's because she cares about me and she doesn't want anything bad to happen to me. Alright? The whole of the Sharia is that. Allah cares about you. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to you. That which is of eternal benefit to you, of everlasting benefit, is to be in the presence of God. There is nothing that is beneficial to you other than being in the presence of God. And the only thing that is of eternal detriment, and the thing about eternity is it goes on forever. The only thing that is of eternal detriment is for you to be distant from God. And the whole of the Sharia is there to ward us away from things that will distance us from God, and to guide us towards the things that draw us near to God. But we have to take the choice. At some stage, you've got to let go of your child's hand and say it's your decision. It's your decision to take. And that is when Allah said in the end of in the surah where He says, إِنَّا عَرَضَنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَيَشْفَقْنَ عَنْهَا وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانُ. We offered the divine trust to the heavens, to the earth, to the mountains, and they all refused it. Why? They were fearful of it. of its consequences. But man took it. إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. How foolish, how oppressive he is of his own self. Right? What's the amana? This is the amana. Make your own choice. That's the amana. You choose. I'm going to give you the ability to choose for yourself. What's the purpose of the fast? Come back to it. Imsak is to teach you a lesson, teach you and me a lesson. What lesson? Man, if you can go without filling your stomach for 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 hours in a day, even though you feel the pangs of hunger, even though the temptation is there, if you can master this, then you can master this. If you can master this, you can master this. If you master your stomach, and you're sitting there and saying, I'm hungry, I want to eat something, but I can't eat something. Why can't I eat something? Because it's haram. Why is it haram? Because it'll break my fast. So what if it breaks my fast? Allah will be displeased. Oh, okay, I won't eat then. Even though I want to eat, I won't eat. So in the presence of the temptation, you avoid doing it. My Shaykh, Allah bless him, he passed away just recently. He was a school teacher, and he used to teach 6-year-olds. He told us, I remember he was 70, and he said, I still teach 6-year-olds. I still teach 6-year-olds. It's just that those 6-year-olds are 30, 40, 50 years old. Yeah? Big lumps, but they're still basically 6 years old. They're still having tantrums. They're still having fights with each other. Yeah? Yeah? Or she broke friends with me, says the husband about the wife. Or she's bullying me, says the daughter-in-law about the mother-in-law. Or she didn't give me her sweets, says the mother-in-law about the daughter-in-law. 6 years old man is playing, this mashayikh, they spend most of their life, not writing books and teaching and stuff, they spend most of their lives refereeing playground tantrums. But I said to my shaykh, I said, why do you do this? I was saying, some of us want to learn, He said, look, my son, this is my job. This is my duty. Because if Allah didn't put me, He didn't say this, I'm saying, but if Allah didn't put people on the earth to referee, then we just end up in one big scrap. We end up in one big fight. But he said, one day when I was teaching, and it was Ramadan and it was hot, and I went into the classroom, I closed the door, and I took a nice cold glass of water like this one. I said, it was a glass of water. I said, I put it there on the desk. And I said to the students, they were all 6 years old, and I said, let's have a drink. Let's have a drink. And all the students said, no, you can't have a drink, you can't have a drink. I said, why? No one can see, I closed the door, no one can see, I won't tell anyone. We'll all have a drink together. And they said, no. He said, why not? They said, because Allah will see. Because Allah will see. That's the lesson of fasting. That's what it's there to teach you. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He is with you wherever you are. So just like you can avoid the temptations of your stomach when you're hungry, if you can do that for 30 days, then can't you also then learn that when your eyes want to look at something that is not permissible, that same thought process occurs. I want to, but I can't. I want to, but I can't. Why can't I? No one's going to know. No one will know what I type onto the computer in my bedroom. No one's going to know. Allah will know. Allah will see. That's the lesson of the month. I'm sitting with my friend. What we say about that other sister, no one's going to know. It's just the two of us. Allah will hear. Allah is with you. That's the lesson of this month. But that's not the only, when we say Allah is with you, normally it's like Big Brother is watching. But it's not just about that. It also means that when you feel alone, when you feel helpless, when you feel like you've got no one there, Allah is with you. Allah is with you. He is there to support you, to protect you. When you feel no one knows what I'm thinking, no one knows what I'm going through, look at what a difficult situation I'm in my family or in my work or in this and that and the other. God is with you. This is the lesson of this month. This is what we learn. Learn it in this month. Memorize it in this month so that you can repeat it to yourself after this month. This month is your preparation. This month is your training. This month is your revision. It's your mock exam. The exam's coming. The game's coming. I remember when my Shaykh passed away, and I was just in South Africa last week or the week before, and I was sitting with one of his students, and I said, you know, playtime is over. Now the game is beginning. Now the game begins. All this time we've been preparing. You always know you're going to Hazrat, Shaykh, what do I do? Now, there's no one to phone. Well, you've got to find a different way to make the phone call, actually. You've got to use Skype, you can't use the phone anymore. Right? But, now the game begins. So take this month as a preparation. That's what it's for. It's there to teach you. Allah has given us this great gift. Not just us, He gave it to all the previous nations that came before. This great gift. So that we learn something from it. This month is preparation. Make the most of it. وَتَزَوَّدُوا. Prepare for the journey. Prepare. Provision yourself for this long journey that is to come. فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. And the best provision is taqwa. May Allah make it easy for you and for me to learn this lesson in this month, to provision ourselves with consciousness of God, with awareness of God's presence, with devotion and discipline, so that we move forward in our lives with that support and that provision. May we learn to master our riding beasts, so that they take us where we want to go, not where they want to go. And may Allah purify us from all of our impurities, the impurities that make us brittle, the impurities that make us unyielding, and make us strong, but also flexible. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair for Shaykh. That was a fantastic reminder. We're quite lucky to have the Shaykh to do a reminder for us. We're going to open it up to the brothers and sisters now. I know Ramadan always brings up loads of different types of questions, so we're going to try keeping it for about 15 minutes inshallah, because we're quite lucky. We've got two people who want to take Shahada as well, so we're going to do that as well inshallah after this. So we'll open it up to the floor. Any questions? We'll start with Shaykh.
Are you serious, Shaykh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to assume you're asking on behalf of someone else. Okay.
Any specific a'mal in the month of Ramadan you advise that people may neglect or overlook?
Actions in the month of Ramadan that people may neglect. So there's two things, okay? And look, this is the beauty of having different ulama with different perspectives and different sort of outlooks. Is that this question, what should I do in the month of Ramadan? What should I not neglect in the month of Ramadan? Right? You get 100 different answers to the question, and all of them will be beneficial. Okay? I don't believe in giving long lists. I'm giving you two things only. Two things. Number one is control two things. Control your temper. Control your temper. And control your tongue from talking badly about people. There's two things particularly to avoid. And do it in a systematic way. What do I mean by that? I mean keep a diary. Keep a diary. Say to yourself at the beginning of the day, when you say, oh Allah, I'm fasting for you today. When you say, oh Allah, inni asumu ghadan lak. Today I am making sawm for you. Remember what I said, the meaning of sawm is, today I'm going to control my nafs for you. Today I'm going to restrain myself from doing things that displease you. and focus on two things. If you're a person who, especially this month, tends to get angry and that sort of stuff, okay, then say, I'm going to think about what situations do I get angry in? How do I avoid those situations? How do I react differently in those situations and so forth? Keep a little diary for yourself. At the end of the day, you ask yourself, did I pass, did I fail? If I passed, that's great. Same thing again tomorrow. If I failed, why did I fail? If I lost my temper, why did I lose my temper? And normally the first answer that will come to you is, because she said that. That's the first answer. No. Because sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can't hurt you. Unless she comes to you with sticks and stones, it's a different matter. But words can't hurt you. You're responsible for your own actions. That person will be accountable for what they said to you, but you will be accountable for your reaction to it. So how can you avoid the situation, act in a different way? Okay? So that's one. Anger and talking badly about people. The second thing is many of us, and I hope everyone, to be honest, will be reciting Quran more in the month of Ramadan. Let's try to keep a little bit of time for a bit of reflection. Reflecting over the meanings of the Quran. Alright? Now, what does this mean? Allah says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Have they not reflected over the Quran? Have they not thought about, have they not contemplated deeply? Tadabbur literally means to go around the back. It's to look at it from all angles. Right? And reflection is very important. Sayyidina Ali said, can a person benefit from something they don't reflect on, they don't understand? Okay? So yes, you're going to increase your recitation of Quran. Take 10, 15 minutes a day to read in whatever language you're comfortable with part of the Quran. You don't have to read the whole separah, that's too much. Too much. 1 page, 2 pages, and just think about it. Just reflect on it. I'm not telling you to divine legal rulings from it, but reflect on what Allah is saying, what it means in your life. Okay? These are my 2 pieces of advice. Abstain, so you're fasting and you're reciting Quran. Yes? So fast from anger and talking badly about people, and recite Quran, but reflect on it too. These are my 2 pieces of advice.
Take one from the sister side.
I will say this before anyone carries on. I am very happy to take very specific questions, especially about health, medicine, fasting. I am a doctor after all. I gave a khutbah on this to all the doctors. People are going to come ask you about it. People are going to come ask you all these questions. This is what you do and this is what you don't do. So, if there are any questions on that specifically, please feel free.
If the doctor advises you not to fast, but you know yourself that you fast.
Right. Good. Very good question. Very good question. So a doctor is a doctor, and a doctor is not a mufti. Alright? Now what does that mean? I'll explain this because a lot of people have these concerns, especially about diabetes. Okay? The question that you need to ask your doctor, Muslim or non-Muslim, doesn't matter, is not, should I fast? The question that you need to ask your doctor is, what will happen if I abstain from food and drink for this period of time, but I continue with medications, or can you adjust the medications in such a way that my sugar remains stable? And that question the doctor is qualified to answer. That question is qualified to answer. Then you take the answer to that question to a scholar. And then the scholar can say, fast or don't fast. I will say, it's a very long fast. And depending on how well your sugar is controlled, and what you use to control your sugar, you might find you run into problems. Simply because of the length of the fast. 16-hour fast, you can probably manage. 20-hour fast, it's a long fast. So, simple thing to do. Okay? Go to the doctor, ask, and again, some people take tablets, some people take injections, right? Can I give a fatwa? According to most of the ulama, injections don't break the fast. Right? Injections don't break the fast. Alright? Putting something into here that goes down your throat and into your stomach breaks the fast. But sticking a needle in there doesn't. Different scholars might tell you different things about that, but that's the general position. Okay? So see I don't know your specific situation, but see what you're taking, what your sugars are like. Do you have a continuous monitor, or do you have Do you have to monitor your sugars? Do you know your signs when you're becoming hypoglycemic or what have you? You need to know those things. The priority is preservation of your health. Full stop. Full stop. The priority is preservation of your health. Okay? I remember I told somebody once, their mother wanted to fast. I think it was one of the students actually. The mother wanted to fast. The mother had loads of medication. She was really unwell. She was insisting on fasting. I said, tell your mother, if she fasts, she will be disobeying God. She'll be disobeying God. There are some people for whom their illness is such that it is permissible to not fast and to make it up later. There are some people, because their illness is so severe, that if they fast, they might end up dying. Right? For those people, it is forbidden to fast. Why? Because Allah says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not destroy yourself with your own hand. I.e., do not harm yourself by your own actions. Okay? So, find out from your doctor if the medication can be adjusted, how well your sugar is controlled. Try it. You've got 7 days left. Try fasting. See what happens. See what the effect is. And go from there. Okay. Same applies to any other medications, by the way. Epilepsy medications, high blood pressure medications. Your priority is the preservation of your health. Alright? Allah is very clear about this. Allah is very clear about this. وَإِن كُنْتُم مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. If you are sick, or you're on a journey, then make it up in later days. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ. Allah wishes ease for you. وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. He does not wish difficulty for you. Yeah? Yes, sorry.
From a medical perspective, the asthma inhalers, does the actually get to the bottom of the, from a medical perspective? Because that's what
asthma inhalers. I just had an hour-long conversation 2 days ago. An hour-long conversation with a very well-respected mufti from up north about asthma inhalers and whether the particles actually enter the digestive system or not, and whether they are small enough to be unnoticeable. And look, the fact of the matter is the majority of scholars say that asthma inhalers break the fast. That's what they say. So I'm not going to say anything different now. But I think it is something that needs to be, I think this is something that needs to be examined much more closely. Okay? But the majority of scholars say asthma inhalers break the fast. If you have brittle asthma, don't fast. You need your inhalers. If your asthma is fairly well controlled, go for it. If you need to use the inhaler, use the inhaler. Okay? You need to use it, you use it. Okay? If you can ask your doctors to switch you to like a twice daily inhaler, so you won't need to use the as required, the PRN one, then do that. Yeah? But this is, I have my personal issues, but then I am not the great body of scholars. I'm just one person.
My question is more about medically. What's the medical opinion of it reaching the belly?
The medical opinion, there are actually very few studies. And Dr. Hisham might know a little bit more about this. Yeah? I don't know whether you want to comment on this.
So, inhalers, steroid inhalers, it's known that even if it's taken for a respiratory condition, it does enter the esophagus. In fact, sometimes it's administered by gastroenterologists to help with esophagitis. So it's known that some of the inhaler does enter the GI.
My question is, not if it enters the esophagus, but if it enters the stomach. That's the question. And I'm not sure. And then the other question is how much. How much it enters. It's something that needs to be researched further. It's a good study that needs to be done. Any other questions? Yes.
And going back to say try this week. So if I do fast, see my sugar level is going really down. That's what happens when I don't eat. So can I not fast?
So yes, there are. This is what's called the fiqh of reasonable fear. All right. So when do you have a reasonable fear that something is going to be detrimental to you? And there's basically three ways. One is expert opinion. The second is your own personal experience. And the third is what you might call the majority rule, the fact that most people would say, yeah, that's harmful. In your case, there's two things. One is expert opinion, right? The second is your own personal experience. So I know someone who, for example, said, I get migraines if I don't eat what have you. What should I do? I said, try it. She tried it one day. She got a terrible migraine at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, really bad. She suffered with it for about 4 or 5 hours. Right? I said, well, this is experience for you. She said, I want to try it one more day. I said, oh, try it one more day if you want. She tried it, same thing happened the next day. I said, no fasting for you. Do it when the fast gets shorter. Yeah? Allah has given you an out. And accepting a dispensation from God is opening yourself to the mercy of God. Can you imagine you say, Allah says, if you're ill, do it later. And you say, no, I'm doing it now. Yeah? Doesn't make sense. Right. Yes?
Right, going back to the payment, obviously it's a long fast. If you do need it and you do take it, does that technically break your fast?
You have to take the principle that it breaks your fast. You have to take the ring. As I said, this is the position of the majority of scholars. So. Alright? No. Breaking your finger to check your blood glucose levels does not break your fast. Stuff going in breaks your fast, not stuff coming out. Yeah? Simple rule. Yes? You have to say that again because I can't hear. Nosebleed? Nose block, yes?
Nasal spray.
Oh, nasal spray.
If your nose is blocked, then you use nasal spray. That's what the brother's trying to say.
Again, it's a very similar thing with the asthma inhaler. You'd have to say that it breaks the fast. Yeah, I think all these things need some good research, but you'd have to say it breaks the fast. Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, would you need to make that fast back up?
Yes, if you break a fast, if you start a fast, if you see the month of Ramadan, right, i.e. if you're alive on the first day of Ramadan, then 30 fasts are obligatory upon you. Pretty much, simple as that, right? Whether you do those 30 fasts in the month of Ramadan, or you do 25 in Ramadan and 5 after Ramadan, or whatever it is, you need to do your 30. Okay, or your 29, depending on how long the month is. So, yes.